the critically acclaimed author of Mommy, I Wish I Was in School Today. He is the voice for our voiceless children. He is educating people across this country on seclusion and restraint, and frankly some of the darkest and ugliest stories that you would ever want to hear or believe can happen, and frankly are happening. He came all the way from New Jersey, so please welcome him.
Thank you, Marcy. As Marcy mentioned, I'm the author of the book, Mommy, I Wish I Could Tell You What They Did to Me in School Today. After witnessing and reporting numerous incidents of abuse and neglect at the hands of school staff, I wrote this book in an attempt to create awareness as to some of the atrocities that innocent children face every day. Far too many people have no idea as to what goes on in some schools today. And let me say right now, as I say in my book, the majority of people that work with our special needs children are very dedicated and very caring. That being said, some are not. We are here today to create awareness. If enough people become aware of what can and does occur, they will demand changes. Changes that will ensure that our children are treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve. I'm here to talk about abuse, neglect, restraint, and seclusion of our special needs children while in school. This is a subject matter that is not easy to discuss and imagine, especially for parents. But it is a reality that must be addressed and corrected. Working with special needs children can be as difficult as it can be rewarding. In recent years, there has been an increase of children that have been classified as having special needs. Providing services to the wide and varying range of the special needs population is not an easy task. Often a student's medical needs and concerns have to be addressed during the same time their educational needs are being addressed. Finding qualified staff that is caring, compassionate, and willing to work with special needs students is a challenge that school districts face. Any individual, and I want to stress that, any individual who has been hired in any capacity by a district should have the full understanding of the needs, capabilities, restrictions, and limitations of the children with whom they will be working with. They should have an understanding of this before they are ever allowed to attempt to help or educate a special needs student. Proper and adequate training is crucial. You wouldn't want an unqualified person working on your car or working on your health. It should not be acceptable for a person to work with your child who is not trained. Thank you. Special needs children being placed in the care of untrained, unqualified staff is a recipe for disaster. There are far too many schools that hire individuals with special needs aides and assistants without requiring them to be properly trained. I worked for a couple of those districts in New Jersey. Sometimes the training that's needed isn't even offered. Much of the mishandling, neglect, and abuse of children that I have witnessed is a direct result of the staff who is working with a particular child not having the knowledge and understanding of the disabilities and special needs of that child. Hiring individuals that are not properly trained and placing them in a classroom where they have the responsibility of educating and caring for the students with such complex issues that many of our children with special needs possess isn't fair to the staff, and it certainly isn't fair to the students. Most importantly, it puts both the staff and the students at risk. I would now like to talk a little bit about restraint. An unfortunate reality is that in very rare occasions, a student may need to be restrained. I have personally worked with children in which this was the case. I'm just going to give you one example. I worked with a young man who would sometimes exhibit self-injurious behavior that may have been caused by gastrointestinal issues that he was experiencing at the time. Sometimes in school, he would attempt to bang his head repeatedly against a cinder block wall. If not stopped, he would do this until he bled and fell to the ground. This is an example of a child that needed to be physically restrained in a calm and appropriate manner to prevent him from causing harm to himself. Any restraint should only be done by a person or persons that have been trained and certified in safe physical restraint, such as I have been in New Jersey. The package of bills that are pending here in Michigan that deals with restraint and seclusion, I think that stipulation has to be spelled out in there very, very clearly. As I state in my book, and as has been mentioned by others today, an improper restraint can be as harmful as a proper restraint can be helpful. Children can and have died all over this country and other countries due to an improper restraint. A restraint should never be used as discipline, punishment, or as a means to get your way. A restraint should only be used as a last resort after other interventions have been exhausted or aren't possible, and only if a person is in immediate danger of causing physical injury to himself or others. In those cases, a properly executed restraint can actually be comforting to a child. Many of the restraints that I've witnessed were a result of a child having a meltdown. The unfortunate irony is that most of these cases, the meltdown itself not only could have been prevented had the staff utilized proper de-escalation techniques, but the meltdown was actually caused by a staff member or members' actions or words. Actions or words that if the staff had the proper training, they never would have used in the first place. A quick example, on a field trip, a teacher assistant became angry at a young man who was flapping his hands and rocking his head back and forth while he sat in his wheelchair. This young man was just dealing with the stimuli around him in the only way he knew how. He was nonverbal, he was autistic, and he had cerebral palsy. After yelling at this student to stop this behavior, this teacher's assistant sat on his lap and physically prevented him from moving his arms and his head, continually yelling at him. This caused this innocent child to have a total meltdown, which in turn led to him to be restrained by 4 other staff members who removed him from the group and put him in an empty bus by himself and closed the door.
That worked well.
So many times after restraint, a child is locked in a seclusion room by themselves, left alone to try to de-escalate and understand the situation that they find themselves in. This practice is counterproductive, it's unsafe, and quite frankly, it's cruel. The unnecessary seclusion of special needs students is another issue that's being addressed in the bills that are pending here in Michigan. It's time we all work together and demand change. It's time that laws are put into place that will guarantee our children are safe at school, such as the ones that are pending in Michigan right now. But let me add something here. Just passing a law isn't good enough. The laws have to be followed and enforced. And for those who choose to break or ignore the law, they must be held accountable. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak today. I wish there was more time that I could outline some more things that could be put into place to keep our children safe while they're at school. God bless you all, and God bless our children with special needs.